This year, the 26th of Teves, is the 10th Yahrzeit of Rabbi Umari Hagoyin Atzadik Shlomo Brevda Zatzal. Where Brevda was the quintessential manik. He was a person of unbelievable stature who could be in the highest realms of Shamayim and yet be right here with you in this world. And I'd like to share some thoughts about what a manik is, what a real Jewish leader is really all about. And of course, the source for that is in Parsha Shmos, Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah tells us the first thing we want to learn, the first things we learn about Moshe Rabbeinu after he was born is in Shmos Parak Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph. The Torah tells us, "Vayihi b'yomim hahem, vayigdal Moshe." And Moshe grew up. V'yotzel achiv, v'yar b'savleisim. And he saw in their sevel. He saw their sevel. So what does Rashi say? V'yar b'savlosim. Nasan eina v'libai lios meitzra aleya. He put his eyes and his heart to feel pain for Klal Yisrael. And where did Moshe Rabbeinu learn this from? Where did he get this skill? Where did he get this concept from? So a little bit later in the parsha, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu got it from Hashem himself. Yeah, because in Pasuk Chav Gimel, Chav Dalet, Chav Hey, the Torah tells us, "Vayi b'yomim harabim hahein, vayimas melech Mitzrayim." That it came a time when the king of Mitzrayim died, v'yandchu b'nei Yisrael min avoda, and all of the Jewish people cried out from the avoda, v'yizaku, and they screamed, v'tal shavasam Elokim min avoda, and their screams went up from the avoda. V'yishma Elokim as nakamfasam, v'yiskra Elokim as briso, as Avram, Yitzchak, as Yaakov, v'yar Elokim as b'nei Yisrael v'yad Elokim. Says Rashi, v'yed Elokim nosen aleim leiv lohilam eina. Hashem put his heart to what was going on with the Jewish people, and he didn't hide his eyes. And so too we see a few psukim later in Parak Gimel. V'yar Hashem kisar liros. Right? Hashem saw that Moshe Rabbeinu had strayed off the path, and then we say a couple of psukim later, Vayomer Hashem rei ra'isi es oni ami asher Mitzrayim besakasam shamati mipnei nogshav ki yadati es mechoyev. Says Rashi, ki yadati es mechoyev. Come over Yed Elokim, like we said a few psukim ago. Ki samti leiv misbonen uledas es mechoyev. I put my heart to understanding their pain. V'lamti einav v'otam es oznaim sakasam. I put my eyes on it, and I didn't hide my heart from their crying out. So we see this anhaga, this practice of Moshe Rabbeinu, to put his eyes and his heart on the pain of the Jewish people, who actually was learned from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. This is Hashem's anhaga himself. My question is as follows. Hashem had already heard the pain. He'd already seen the pain. He already heard the pain. We're ready for the Geula. Hashem saw it and heard it. What do you need Moshe Rabbeinu doing this for? What's the purpose? What is Moshe Rabbeinu adding by putting his eyes and his heart on the thing? And this is the first thing the Torah tells us about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the quintessential Jewish manik. He's the only person in the whole world who everybody calls Rabbeinu. You know, everybody has their idea who the Rebbe is. There's only one person who's everybody's Rebbe, and that's Moshe Rabbeinu. So when you give like so what is this? What is Moshe Rabbeinu teaching us? That he put his eyes and his heart to feel the pain of Klal Yisrael. What was this needed for? So I think we can answer as follows. I think this is a very, very big principle in Jewish leadership. That when the Torah teaches us in Parak Beis, Pasuk Chav Hey, Chav Gimel, Chav Dalet, Chav Hey, that when the king of Mitzrayim died, when the king of Egypt died, so Hashem saw the suffering, He heard the cries of Jewish people. He saw the suffering. The Torah there says in those three psukim, the Lashon of Elokim, 5 times. 5 times it says Elokim in those three psukim. Elokim is Midas Hadin. It's coming with the attribute of justice. The Jewish people deserved Geula. They deserved it. The Torah tells us, right? Hashem remembered the bris with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The Jewish people deserved it. The Midas Hadin, right? It was meant to be. But Midas Hadin is not enough. Just because we deserved it in din, who, because who can stand up to Midas Hadin? As Brevda told me many, many times from the Gra in Mishlei, Perik, Perik Chavhei, the Gra says that who could stand up in din? Only Yaakov Avinu. It says Ketantu Yikol Chasadim. Yaakov Avinu was Ish Emes. He could stand up in din, but who could stand up in din? Right? Can't stand up in din. So what do? The whole Jewish people are suffering. We're in slavery. How are we going to get out? How are we going to get out of Mitzrayim? The answer is that this is what was going on with Moshe Rabbeinu. The Manik, the leader of the Jewish people, has to turn the din of Hashem into Rachmim. Right? He has the relationship, he has the greatness, he has the madrega, the spiritual level, and the power of prayer, like we see by Mordechai and Tzaddik, and other great Jewish leaders of the Jewish people. They have the ability to turn the din into rachmim, to turn the judgment into mercy. Right? But there's a condition. They have to feel the pain. You can't daven. You can't daven for Klal Yisrael. You can't daven for an individual unless you feel the pain. Because to turn judgment into mercy, you have to really feel it. You have to come to Hashem and beg Hashem that He should bring mercy upon His children, the Jewish people. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing. Moshe Rabbeinu was feeling the pain of the Jewish people. It was going to be over 40 years later that this was going to come into practice. But over 40 years later, when Moshe Rabbeinu is by the snap and getting ready to come back to Mitzrayim. So if you look in the Torah, the wording changed. We're not using Elokim anymore. We're using Hashem, which is the name of Hashem, of mercy, of Racham. This is the job of a man in Israel, is to turn the din, to turn the judgment into mercy. And the only way to do it is to feel the pain of the Jewish people, is to feel it, to be like Hashem, to be nasan einav alibo al saras Yisrael. That's the only way to feel the rachim. As Shlomo Zalman Auerbach once told me, sometimes people they say long lists of Mishaberach and they put it in their Shemona Esrei. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach told me that's not right. In order to come before the king and ask for mercy for another Jew, you have to feel the pain. You have to know what's going on. You have to know the situation. You have to feel it. Because you can't have the audacity. It's audacity to come in front of the king and beg for Yeshua, to daven for Yeshua, unless you really feel mercy, unless you're able to have a passionate request for mercy for the person you're davening for. You have to feel the mercy. You have to feel rachamim. You have to feel mercy for that person in order for your feelings to be accepted. And this is the role of a man in Israel. Now, if there's one person, if there's one Rav, I could say, Baruch Hashem, I was over my lifetime to be close to many Gedolei Ador. But if there's one Rav, I could say that his nida really was rachamim, to feel B'nasan Eina Balibo al Saras Yisrael. It was Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal. Hagoyin Atzadik. Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal. My wife and I, in our Shana Rishona, we had very, very unbelievably big problems. I feel it's even accurate to say, as David HaMelech said, Gam ki elech b'gei tzalmavis lo yura ki atamiti. My wife and I, we literally walked through the gates of the roads of Gehenna, We literally were walking on them. And many, many Rabbeim graciously helped us. But there was one Rav who took off his frock and his jacket. He rolled up his sleeves and he said, "I'm coming down with you into the deepest pits of Gehenna, into the threshold of Gehenna." He was willing to come down. And that was Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal, Moreno Rabbeinu, Hagoyin Atzadik, Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal. He was willing to come down into the pits of Gehenna, into the darkest pits of Gehenna, and to really feel the pain, to feel the incredible pain of a Jew who was feeling pain during that time, to go into the pits of Gehenna and to feel that pain. And that was Moreno Rabbeinu Hagoyin Shlomo Brevda Zatzal. And it's not shaykh, it's not possible for me to sufficiently express my Hakaras HaTov because I'm only alive because of Shlomo Brevda. So many times I felt I have no strength to go on. And Rabbi Brevda gave me that strength. He gave us that hope, whether it was through very kind and empathetic words, whether it was through writing a tefillah, whether it was giving us chizuk, whatever it was, he was right there. Gam ki elech, begayed salmavis, lo ira ki atimati. Of course, we're talking about the Borei Olam, but the Borei Olam has some very, very special talmidim. Those who learned Parsha Shmos, Be'ilin, they learned it very well, and they learned from the Borei Olam. Yeah? V'yar Elokim, that's Bnei Yisrael v'yad Elokim. Right? They learned how the Borei Olam sees the pain of Klal Yisrael, right? With their lave and with their einayim, with their hearts, with their eyes. They see the pain of the Jewish people. And they learned to turn the din into racham. This is a true man. This is what I learned from Shlomo Brevda Zatzal. V'mi lanu, who do we have in this generation who has such a lave? He was the lave of the entire Jewish people. As the son said, and I saw myself, the phone was constantly ringing in his house. People turned to him from all walks of life, gedolim and ketanim alike, to daven for them and to be with them in their tzaras, because they knew he had a special relationship with the Borei Olam, and he could bring their tzaras in front of the Kisei HaKavod. I remember at a certain period in our life, where Brevda told me, "You have no idea how much I've been davening for you. You have no idea." I remember one time, he said a story that he was older and someone came to daven for him. He said, "I'm sorry, I just can't do that anymore. I'm just not able to do that." Yeah, because when Brevda would daven for someone, he wouldn't just daven for you. He would put his entire being into your situation. And he just didn't have the strength to do that. And this is a real Manig Yisrael. This is what Klal Yisrael needs as we stand in the threshold of the Gula, the Saf of Mashiach. Right? And definitely, Midas Hadin, the Gula is here. The Gula is here. After all the suffering, as I was walking to the Kosel this morning, and I was with someone who was at our event last night, with Brevda, and he said, "Rabbi, I heard everything you said, but where was the Rachamim when my one child, 14-year-old, died?" Yeah, and I said, "I have an even bigger question for you. Where was Hashem's Rachamim during the Holocaust?" Yeah, these are questions that we can't answer. We don't have the answer to these questions. These are questions that we need Emunas Chabaleilos. Yeah, but there was one Yid who could answer these questions, and that was Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal. Because you would just look at him, you would just talk to him, and you would see that there was no more questions. Yeah, when you would see and feel his amunah, then we don't have any more questions anymore. And Brevda was somebody who could change the din into rachamim. I remember one of the first times I met the Rav. It was after a number of times meeting the Rav, but I came to the Rav and I said, Rabbi, I just can't take it anymore. Just one thing after the other. I just can't deal with it anymore. I can't go on. So Brevda said, come back tomorrow and I'll have the answer to all your problems. And I'm like, what? You'll have the answer to all my problems? So I came back tomorrow, not knowing what to expect. And the Rav said, I'm going to write for you a tefillah, and I promise you, in a short time, things will get much better. And they did. They got much better. We never had a normal life, my wife and I, but things got much better. And this was the godless of Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda. He had the power to turn Elokim into Havaya, to turn Midas Adin, to Mahapich the Din. And Chazal tell us it's a Gemara in Brachas Daf Sam Gimel Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Kol Mishatev Shem Shamayim B'Tzarasei Koifin Lo Parnasasei. Anybody who's Mishatev the Shem Shamayim into a Sarah, Hashem will send him a Yeshua Gedela, send him a great salvation. What does it mean to Mishatev the Shem Hashem into your Sarah? What it means is that you bring the Shem Havaya. You bring Hashem's name into your Sarah. You turn it from Elokim to Havaya. You bring Hashem's Rachamim. As the Vilna Gaon says in Mishlei, he says, we have no hope unless we use Rachamim. Because Hashem's Rachamim is infinite. And in the tefillahs that he wrote for me, he said always, Afal pi she'eni kedai, even though I'm not worthy. Mi kol makom, nevertheless, Na'al tashiveni re'kam l'fnecha. Don't leave me empty-handed. Ki b'leiv nishbar, my broken heart. Urachamecha atzumim, your infinite mercy. Hineni boteach v'nisha. I rely on you. Yogeli v'shecha. My heart should rejoice in your salvation. The greatness of Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda was he lived these words. He was always understood that we deserve nothing, nothing at all. And we're all contingent on Hashem's infinite mercy. Hashem should fill this great, great void and loss that we have in our generation. That's to have such an Adam Gadol B'Yosef, Gadol Ba'Anakim, as Rav Shlomo Leib Brevda Zatzal. And we should be zeicher. We should merit that our tefillahs, our prayers, should go from din. Right? We should be able to go from din to rachamim. We should be able to turn to Hashem and His infinite mercy and ask Him for true salvation and see the Geula B'Karov. I'm sure that Rav Shlomo Brevda Zatzal is in Shemayim, and he's not letting them have any rest. He's banging on the doors of Geula and saying, Hashem, Afal pi she'eni kedai, even though I'm not mercy, now tashiveni re'kam l'fnecha. Don't leave me empty-handed. Ki b'leiv nishbar v'rachamecha atzumim hineni boteach v'nisha. Right? He's pleading with Hashem, His infinite mercy. They should bring the Geula for the Jewish people, because Rav Brevda during his lifetime, he put all his heart and all his eyes on the sorrows, on the difficulties of the Jewish people. And whatever you do in this world carries over to the next. I'm sure that Rav Brevda in Shemayim is looking down at us and feeling our pain as the Gullus continues, and begging the Rabbeinu Shalom to bring the Geula B'Karov. We should see it very, very soon, because we're so needy and we have so many tzaras. Rabim tzaras Amch Yisrael. There's so many tzaras that Jewish people are experiencing. And they're all Chevli Mashiach. And they're all the threshold of Mashiach. As the Maharal says that every new Hanhaga, every new world order needs to destroy the previous world order. And that's what we're seeing today. The multitude, the plethora of difficulties, of tribulations that Klal Yisrael, that the Jewish people are experiencing today, is Chevli Mashiach. It's the breakdown of the old world order In order to usher in the new world order of the Gula, it should come very, very soon. We should be zocheh to see it. Amen. Kain. Ta. Ratzon.